My wife is kind of a genius, and she thinks a little different than me. She's a manager leader, so she thinks in structure. And right now, what she's doing is she's working with the CIO of a fairly large medical tech company. And what she's doing is the CNAs. She's the talk to. She's the go between when you plug in software and the human element, the nurses and stuff like that. That she's the go between to make sure all that stuff connects quickly. And they brought her in. The challenge that they're having is that the CNAs are not inputting the data that's necessary for them to get their coding, to get their billing back, and so it's costing them a lot of money. And so they've implemented all this money, they've invested all this money in technology that's now being leveraged. And so it's costing them money. And so instead of them going in and looking at what's not working, they brought her in and they're trying to figure out what more do they need to do? What other stuff do they need to what other technology should they bring in to solve the challenge? Right. And so she's sitting in the meeting. She's got all these figureheads that are with her, and they're all talking about we need this, we need that, we need this, we need that. We don't have time for this. We don't have time for that. Excuse me. And she said, the problem is not you don't need anything more. That's not the problem. The problem is that as a manager, you are not leveraging the material by making them aware of what you need to focus on. There's nothing more disheartening than watching somebody run the wrong way passionately. Right? And when you've got a whole team of people all scrambling for resources and they're all fighting over resources, the problem is if all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. The real challenge is that the management hasn't set a measured management. Remember, I said what gets reported gets measured, what gets measured gets managed, what gets managed grows exponentially, right? Once we get reported, measurement, right? And so what they're not doing is they're not reporting, they're not measuring, they're not managing the process that the CNAs are supposed to be going through. And if you don't give them a system, some way for them to understand, if you don't give them a road to go down, and then you don't manage that road through reporting and KPIs, key performance indicators, then what you get is you get a bunch of people that have something in front of them, but they don't know that that's what they're supposed to be doing because they're not focused on what they need to focus on. Let me give it to you another way. So I was talking to one of my clients, a lawyer. We were digging in and we were trying to figure out what he was doing is he's having a huge cash flow problem, and he thought it was because his marketing wasn't working. And so what happens is he goes in and he fixes his marketing and then everything drops, right? Quote unquote fixed his marketing, everything dropped. We got in, we started doing an assessment, what I call a root cause analysis, really digging into what's going on. And what we found out was it wasn't the marketing. What was happening is the leads were coming in, but then the leads were stalling because he didn't contact them in time. And we all have two stories. We have the story that we tell ourselves and we have the story that we live out of, right? And this particular attorney was dealing with situations where when the client called in, in their mind, although he said, they don't have to do anything right away, they've got plenty of time, it's not like an immediate need, it's not like he was dealing with somebody that was stuck in jail, needed to get out kind of thing. He's dealing with a situation that was a paperwork issue. But when the story the client was telling themselves was that they were behind the eight ball, that they had to get something done tomorrow. So the marketing would go and drive the people in, but because he wasn't aware of where the client was at and didn't meet the client in the appropriate way, what ended up happening was that guy ended up losing leads because by the time he got to them, they already picked somebody. They'd already chosen a lawyer because for them it was a sense of urgency. Even though the attorney said in reality there was no urgency, the client thought for sure that there was an urgency and would shoot out through the hole before he had a chance to get a hold of them. And so what we did was we found a way for him to shorten his sales cycle and expand the ability for him to reach so that he wasn't losing all the leads on the front end before he even was able to take them through the sales process. Right. So you have to you don't want to deal with the symptoms. You want to ask yourself, what is the root cause? What is really causing the challenge that I'm dealing with? Because if you only deal with the symptoms, you'll spend your life putting out fires. You'll spend your day putting out fires. This is where we run into business operators that burn out because they don't have a structured framework to allow them to go in and really understand how to dive down into the core and deal with the core issues. And so all they can do is just deal with the symptoms. You've got to understand how to deal with the core. So you have to ask yourself, whenever you're dealing with a problem, ask yourself, is this a symptom of a deeper problem? ask yourself, am I running into this challenge more than once? Am I seeing this happen over and over again in my business? Because if you are, then it's an opportunity for you to then go in and create a system, create a true solution based upon the core challenge, and solve that challenge so you never see it again.